In today's video, we are going to start our three-part series on how to book solo travel, particularly when you're traveling internationally alone for the first time. We're going to cover everything from how to research, how to plan, the right order to plan in because it matters, also covering how to choose your hotel, how to get the best prices on flights. We are covering everything and it all starts today. So are you ready? Let's go. Hey, thank you so much for stopping by. My name is Linda Jones. I am the CEO of Crafted Travel Company and the author of Travel Agent Secrets. And also I am a fellow solo traveler. I travel solo most of the time actually because my husband can never get time off of work and I don't wait around for him. I'm also an empty nester, so I don't have to wait around for children. So I just go. Anyway, today I want to talk to you about everything having to do with planning your solo trip, especially if you'll be going internationally alone for the first time. So today we're going to cover a few things. I'm going to go through kind of quickly. Okay, one thing I want to mention before we go any farther is I have created a complete resource for you. I have gone into detail about all of the tips we're covering, not only in this video, but the next two videos as well. And I have created it all into one place, including links, extra tips that I haven't covered in the video, and a lot more detail. And you can get it for free. Just click the link below in the description and you'll be able to head over to my website and download that resource absolutely free. So let's get back into it. Much more detail and share a lot more of the secrets that professionals use in order to plan these trips and make them amazing. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and jump on in. Okay, tip number one has to do with researching and finding your destination. Now, if you do not already have your destination in mind, then there are a few things that you could do to research to find a great destination for you. One of the things that I love to do is just to research safest places for women to travel solo. Now, you don't necessarily have to search for the safest place. If you already know where you're wanting to go, by all means, go to that location. But if you just need some ideas, you don't have to stick to those lists. You can certainly look farther abroad and get some ideas from other people, especially here on YouTube, on different blogs. A lot of people share some really great experiences and there might be a new place you want to go. Now, for instance, last year, I chose to travel to Mexico City by myself, and although it's not technically on any safest lists, in fact, it's oftentimes considered one of the more dangerous cities to go to, there is a way to travel safely. I just was very mindful when I went. I did a lot of research ahead of time and knew exactly what could be good for me, what would be dangerous for me, and I stuck to that protocol. I didn't go out at night alone. I stuck to the nicer neighborhoods, did not go into the bad neighborhoods, and when I was using the subway systems and such, I had a guide with me and I never felt in danger once. So even if you want to go someplace that's not technically on a safest list, you can do so safely and feel absolutely comfortable going. The only thing is you might want to wait until you have some solo travel under your belt first, because it can be a little bit overwhelming when you're by yourself internationally alone for the first time. But once you have a couple of trips under your belt, you can go just about anywhere if you know where you're going and you know what you're doing. What I have done is I have linked below to a list of several articles that cover safest destinations so that you can start looking around and making your decision. That is a great way to find destination ideas. Also, checking out YouTube, there are a ton of women solo travelers that have posted about their destination recommendations, their experiences, how it went for them, and it'll really help you narrow down your decision and choose the right destination for you and for what you're wanting to experience. Okay, tip number two is get an idea of the best times to go. Now, this is only applicable if you are flexible on your dates. Like if you can only go in July, then you can only go in July. But if you have a little more flexibility, a great way to avoid the crowds and also to be a little safer is to look at the times that are best to go, usually in the non-busy times, the non-main times. And a way that you can find that is I put a link in the description below below, and I'll go ahead and put it up here as well. But it is to a website that actually lists each country and lists when the best times to go are, when the busy times are, when the non-busy times are, and that'll help you choose the right time to go so that, again, you have less crowds at all of the places that you want to go. Less crowds usually means less people to pick on tourists. And it's just a little nicer to be in a place when it's not jam-packed and over-toured and everything that goes along with that. Tip number 3, don't book your flights yet. Just wait. I know now that you have your destination in mind and now that you know when you want to go, the first thought is to book your flights. But I want to caution you to wait, to advise you as a professional to wait. My next step when I'm planning my own trips is actually to start planning my itinerary first, because my itinerary might affect which airport I want to fly into. It's certainly going to affect what hotel I choose based on all of the different things that I want to see. So I always start to plan my itinerary, meaning I want to see this on this day. I want to see this on this day. These are the things I want to experience. I start planning that first before I book a flight or book a hotel room. So a few things that I do to decide on where I want to go is if it's a destination I'm already familiar with, I will start making a list of all of the things that I would like to see or like to experience. Now, if it's a place that I'm not familiar with, and even if I am familiar, I like to do a little bit more research because there's always things I might not have heard of yet, even if I'm really familiar with the location. So what I do is I go to the usual places. I'll search here on YouTube. I will search on just Google search for different blogs. I will look into TripAdvisor is a huge, huge thing to be able to look to see, okay, what are people, where are they going? What are their experiences? What are they seeing? What are some really cool things that apply to me? And then I make a list of all of the things that I want to see. And then what I do is take that list and lay it down onto a calendar. Now, I don't pen it in and say, I'm for sure going to see this on this day. I just kind of get a basic idea of what I want to see on each day. Now, the trick to this is don't schedule more than 1 or 2 things per day. One of the mistakes I see people make is they try to overschedule. They want to see it all in their short time, perhaps that they're there. And yes, I understand wanting to see it all, but if you're so hectic and you're running from thing to thing to thing to thing, you aren't going to have time to even enjoy it, to breathe, to experience. It also doesn't leave you any flexibility if you say meet some great people and decide to go out to a meal with them, or you see something cool and you want to explore it. If you're booked back to back to back to back, you're not going to have that freedom. So I recommend only picking 1 to 2 things per day to see or to do or to schedule, and then laying it out roughly on a calendar. And that way what you could do is you can mix and match them, you can move them around, group them maybe by location. If some are in this part of the city and some are in this part of the city, lay those out. But also what that lets you do is you can look and say, okay, I'm going to be on the north end. Things I want to see are on the north end, the south end, the east end. And then that'll help you kind of zero in on where your hotel should be so you can be central to all of those things. So that's kind of the next step I take is I plan that itinerary and kind of roughly lay out what I think I'm going to want to see and do for the time that I'm there. One of the other places I love to look when I am creating my itinerary is Airbnb experiences. Now, this is something new from Airbnb where locals will actually put on tours, demonstrations, different how-tos and tutorials through Airbnb. It's actually fairly inexpensive, and there's a ton of options to choose from. For instance, last year when I went to Tokyo, I looked at Airbnb experiences and I was able to sign up for a local food tour that took me to a lot of local hot spots and showed me the best food Tokyo had to offer. We also went on a bar hopping tour where I got to meet the locals and meet some new people and get some inspiration and ideas for other things that I wanted to experience in Tokyo. I went to a market and they toured us around the market and showed us typical food in the Japanese home, and then took us back to her home and taught us how to cook an entire meal, which was fantastic.
although I didn't do it, there was also things like samurai sword exhibitions and dressing up like a geisha and taking internet photos and just so many different things. And it was all taught by locals. And it was incredible having that experience because I got a different view from what the tourists typically see. I got to see behind the scenes. So this is definitely one of the places I highly recommend. Even if you just do one Airbnb experience on your trip, it is absolutely worth it. Now, one caveat about that is I recommend you doing that near the beginning of your trip. Reason being, when you go on these trips, you're going to learn a lot from the locals that are giving them and the other tourists that are traveling with you, because there's usually small groups, maybe 10 or so, sometimes less, sometimes more. But you're going to learn a lot when you're on that Airbnb experience. And it might change what you want to experience for the rest of your trip. You might see some new things you want to experience more. You might change your mind about a few things. So I always recommend doing those at the beginning and then having more time. I made that mistake in Tokyo. I planned all of my Airbnb experiences at the end of my trip. And when I went, there were so many cool things I learned and I wanted to explore, but I was at the end of my time and I had to go home. So definitely book those things at the beginning and it'll set you up for an incredible, incredible vacation.
One of the other things that I like to do when I am laying out my itinerary is consider the time change. For instance, I am in California, and when I go to Hawaii, which is 3 hours behind my time zone, I usually schedule the early morning excursions. Like for instance, on Maui, there's an excursion that you can take from the top of the mountain at sunrise down the hill, and it's extraordinary. Now, it starts though at dawn in Hawaii, so it's a very, very early morning. But because I'm traveling 3 hours behind, I'm usually up super early the first 2 days because I'm on California time. So those are the perfect days to schedule those really, really early morning excursions because I'm already going to be up early as it is. So when you're planning yours, consider the time changes. If you are going to likely be up early, pick those early morning things in the beginning of your trip. If you're going to likely be up late, pick those late things at the beginning of your trip. Or at the end, when if it's something that you need to be acclimated to the new time zone, pick that a little later in your trip. That way you have time to acclimate before that excursion happens. The next thing that I want to talk about with regard to excursions is looking and making sure the things you want to see once you have them planned out are actually going to be open. So a lot of countries will, for instance, close on Sundays, and you might plan to do a whole slew of things on a Sunday and nothing's going to be open. Also, if you're traveling to a country, for instance, that has siestas, you're going to want to keep that in mind, because if you're planning to take your lunch break and then do a bit of shopping, they might be closed after lunch. You also want to take into consideration what their habits are with regard to eating. For instance, some of those siesta countries, they eat dinner very, very late. And so you want to adjust your schedule accordingly. So check out the destination that you're going, check to see when things are open and what things you need to consider when planning, and make sure you add that to your schedule, your rough schedule as well.
Okay, so now you know exactly where you want to go. You know kind of what you want to experience when you're there. Now is the time to book your flights. Now, the best way to do that is to take a look at the itinerary and what you want to do and see what airports are closest and what airport options that you have. Because when you go in to book your flight, you want to be able to check all of the airports available to you so that you can find the absolute best price and best situation for what you're looking for. Now, once you have your itinerary, not only does it help you know what airport to go into, it also lets you know timing. Do you need to arrive early? Do you need to arrive late? When you need to leave? It gives you more options. So say, for instance, you're going to London. Do you necessarily have to fly into Heathrow? Could you fly into Gatwick? Could you fly into Scotland and maybe take the train? Or one of the other areas in England and maybe take the train, or add that onto your vacation experience. That is what is so great about having your itinerary, or at least an idea ahead of time. It opens up the world of options of things you may or may not have noticed. So once you're ready to book your flight, which is at this point is when I book my flights, I want you to head over to our series on all things booking flights. We cover how to find the cheapest flight, how to exactly how to look for your flight, what websites to go to, how to search, so that you can be 100% confident that you're getting the best flight for you. And I will add a link to that up in the card above, and I will add it in the description below so that you can go take a look. We have a 5-part series that covers everything booking a flight, and it'll walk you through step by step so that you'll know exactly how to get the best flight for you. Okay, so that is our 4 tips for today. Join us for our next video where we'll be covering everything having to do with finding your hotel, how to choose the right hotel or resort or Airbnb or anything that is available to you in your area, how to make that choice, how to find the best price, and all of the things that go along with that. And we'll also be covering a little bit about travel insurance and why you want to add that onto your trip. All of that is coming to you next time, which is probably in 2 days. All of that is coming to you in our next video. So be sure to click that subscribe button and hit that notification bell so that you're notified when it is released. And don't forget to click that link below in the description to download your free resource of everything we've covered today and everything we're going to cover in the next 2 days as well. I want to thank you so much for stopping by. If you found this helpful, please click that thumbs up button below. That'll help me out a lot, and I really appreciate it. Other than that, I want to wish you a safe and healthy year and happy travels. Bye-bye.